If the bustle of Mexico City traffic didn't give you enough excitement, imagine what the rush will look like into Turn 1. Everyone will undoubtedly be in a hurry to get to the first corner of the new season as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 15 Sport Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. I am Joe Peak, and behind the scenes tonight is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. So this has been an interesting one so far, with this being definitely a bit of a draft track, but we'll talk a little bit about how that changes with the elevation of this circuit. In the meantime, let's take a look at the schedule for this season, and it certainly is a fun mix of circuits. I do like when you see maybe some unusual combinations in there. Tracks such as Olton Park being mixed in. You don't see Long Beach quite as often with sports cars. So I feel like this is going to be definitely a good challenge for our competitors throughout. But it'll start out with Autódromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and of course ending with Daytona, both being heavy on the drafting with a lot of high speeds at both tracks. So you'll see some similarities at the beginning and at the end, kind of bookending the two races. Of course, we have our cars on the track for qualifying already, and it is currently 19 Celsius on the track surface itself, so somewhat cool out there. At the top of the charts, it is Nick Francis, who is our provisional pole sitter. Lee Binkley coming in second right now. They get 3 laps here in this qualifying. Out of the 10 minutes that they are given to try and set their quickest time. After those 3 laps, any laps that you do beyond that do not count. And there is Nick Francis coming around on what is the last lap, and did improve time, but not position. It is half a second right now between P1 and P2. That is distinctly large, I must say, between those two positions. Should be an interesting one on that front then, if there's that big of a gap between the top driver and the rest of the field. Do see it looks like a few more cars out there still working to put a lap in. This is Andrew Elsom as well, currently on the circuit, sitting in the 11th position. Make that 12th, as he just got bumped by Andrew Long, who jumps himself up into 8th position now. This is out through the fork. One of the slower parts there, definitely a more technical section. And of course, they have this sweeping part of the track, very difficult through the S's, that will test you to make sure that you keep on the racing line. See a lot of drivers wind up going just a little bit wide there, losing a lot of time. But more importantly, they have a lot of paved runoff in that section and in others. So expect to see a few drivers that wind up with some slowdown penalties, or worse, at 25 incidents, which those off tracks count for 1 incident in iRacing, you could find yourself disqualified if you reach those 25. Andrew's going to come around out of the Foro Sol and on to, well, what was going to be the main straight, but looks like he is going to wrap this one up, as it looks like he's already finished his 3 laps. What about Antonio da Silva? He has also taken his 3 laps, it looks like, so he's effectively done. Interestingly, his first 2 did not count. So that 143.1 that he's got next to his name was essentially his only lap that he was able to get legally, and it might not be his best. We'll see if he can improve upon that 18th, as that is definitely too wide through there, and I don't think that one would have counted even if it was one of his 3 laps. About 30 seconds left. Anybody else able to set a time here? Just double checking. Looks like Darren Loher may have been able to, but he is not going to be able to get to the finish line in time with these 25 seconds roughly we see on the board. So nobody else able to put a time down from the rest of the field. All right then. Well, our field is essentially locked in, and it's a large one. 37 drivers out here today. That is a pretty good chunk of Porsches they're going to be taking to the track. As we saw with the pro race last Wednesday, a lot of cars on track means it is going to be constant action out there. There are definitely opportunities to overtake, but it can be tough with it being much higher in elevation. the thinner air means that the slipstream will not be as powerful. So while that front straight is massively, massively long, it just doesn't give as much of a toe as you typically expect. So it keeps everybody on their toes, but it does make it maybe a bit frustrating if you find yourself close, but not quite close enough. We're probably going to be pulling up the qualifying time of our pole sitter here in a little bit, as Stephen Danley did wind up holding on to that top spot. But this is essentially a 5-minute warm-up session, so these drivers will get some time to get just a little bit more practice in. Here is on board with Britt Danley. So heading out of the final corner of the Peraltada, which is cut in half now in the modern version. It is so important to get the run out of that last turn, because this is the longest straight on the track. And then you got to pick your brake marker here coming up into the sun, with this being an early morning qualifying. And as he slams on those brakes, since the olden days, they have tightened up this first sequence of corners. This is the Esses Moises Solana. And again, another important corner exit on that third apex to send you down towards the Esse del Lago. And that, I believe, is roughly translates to the one by the lake, which I love having a corner name as. Into the fork now. A quick chicane on your way into it, but then a double apex hairpin squared off definitely makes it tricky. You don't have too long of a run down to the S's, but you don't want to mess it up too much, or else you'll have a real challenge going side by side here into the S's. And it is just constant back and forth. You can see those drivers can take quite a bit of curb, but we have to remember those curbs can upset the car still. You can see how much it bounces around. So we saw in the pro race that wound up taking a number of drivers out as they wound up just clipping a little too much and spinning. Possible passing opportunity into the entry of the stadium. Sometimes you'll see drivers manage to do something if they get a good exit out of the S's, and then it is slow, technical, and mostly single file through the Foro Sol. But you want to line up this corner exit, maybe not so much here on the qualifying lap at the end of it, as you just want to shorten the run to the line, and that gives Britt our pole position here for the first race in the sport class. Looked like a pretty decent run there for him. The rest of the drivers still getting those last minute laps in here in the warm-up now. 5 minutes probably only means you'll get about 2, maybe 3 laps in, frankly. So it's not going to be a massive change for most of these drivers, just whatever last little bits of shaking off the rust that they may need as we are coming back after the holiday break. So it is a short break, but nonetheless, you may have spent a few weeks not getting onto the sim, so maybe you're still kind of getting used to things once again. Do love that they've started off with a somewhat newer track. This is the first time that the Mexico City track has shown up on the schedule for this series. And Britt Danley, as we mentioned, Stephen Danley also is our pole sitter. Nick Francis starts in second next to him, as Lee Binkley will be P3. Sheldon Zaharachuk will start from fourth, and Daniel Harmon will be P5. Adam Gerling will then start on the outside of row 3, as Matt Trollitt will be in 7th and Andrew Long 8th. Row 5 sees Dave Douglas to the inside, and Daniel Corbett rounds out your top 10. After that, it's Alan Hales starting from 11th. Andrew Elsom will be to his outside at the start of the race. Dennis Lynn starts in 13th, and Ed Trippett in P14. Anchorbird Zone starts 15th. He's got Joseph Evers for company on that 8th row. Todd Goldberg starts 17th, and Antonio Da Silva only good enough for 18th with his lone lap that counted. Christopher Costas will be in P19. Jeff Williams in 20th position, and Jeff Gardner in 21st. Then it's David Langston with a very easily identifiable car there in 22nd. Christian Braun will be in the 23rd spot, and Tim Thornton then in 24th. Quarter century mark goes to Randy Lervold. You've got Ryan Mullaney starting 26 and Johan 927. Mike Saxteen will be in P28. Row 15 has Anthony DiVincenzo and Anthony James with a row of Anthonys there. From there, in the 31st spot, you've got Curtis Crummell and Darren Lower there on the next row. After that, it is Ward Preston in 33rd. Kevin Haman will be starting from 34th. Peter Yerxa will be 35th, followed by Donald Manning in 36th. And our last driver on the field is Patrizio Torrigiani in 37th. Hopefully we'll get a nice clean run coming through the first few corners. One thing to remember that they are implementing this season that is slightly different from before is while they still have the orange zone, and it is still the complete first lap. The orange zone, for those unaware, is a section of racing at the start of the races here in PCA where they have a higher level of scrutiny, and there will be more harsh punishments if you wind up causing an accident, so that they make sure nobody goes crazy on lap one. And that now extends to this warm-up lap, which is, as you can see, maybe about a third of the lap. So if you cause any trouble accidentally here behind the pace car, then you can wind up in some serious trouble. And I think that's just to try and lock down on drivers that maybe were having a few troubles heating the tires up, heating the brakes up, and getting on their way safely. So we should be on our way shortly. Hopefully they've watched the two races we've had so far, taken some notes. I do like that they start with the fastest class, the most experienced drivers, and kind of work their way down to the beginners, so that if there's any tips to be brought out, if there's any things that they can pick up, they can definitely grab it from those that can handle going in a little bit more blind. Typically, you'd think you'd want to finish with, the coup de grace, the fastest and the most exciting. But I feel like this is better, since this is a learning league, and they want to try and train drivers and give them opportunities to improve. So I feel like this is the right call, even though maybe it isn't as dramatic of a finish. Meanwhile, the sport class should still give us a lot of fun, because I can tell you they still compete very highly, and they are behind no more pace car, with control being given over to Danley. And he's given the green flag as they speed their way down towards the first corner. For the first time this season, he's got a good jump, but Lee Binkley's already trying to size him up down to the inside. You can see them fan out behind, kicking up the dust of the track as they speed towards the first braking zone. What's it going to be? Binkley going to look down to the inside, can't quite get there at the apex. First few cars definitely single file. The rest of them, though, already seeing some three wide there in the background, back and forth through the three apexes and on their way down the recta transera. Up towards the braking of turn 4. Danley still holds off Binkley, but he made a massive gap after that first set of corners. It is up to 1.4 seconds. He's looking strong to start this race off. They work their way around. Not seen any incidents quite yet. This is good. You can also get some big troubles coming into turns 4 and 5, but you can see coming off the fork, some drivers having a little bit easier than others, as a few maybe slip up the wheels and wind up riding the inside of that turn as they exit. Dan Harmon in the 4th position. He's chasing on Nick Francis currently. Has about half a second between the pair of them, but he's also got Trollitt coming up behind. Big look there from Dan, but unable to really make the pass. Trollitt and Douglas also getting awful close there behind him. Out of the stadium now. First lap just about complete. Danley still looking strong, but has given up a bit of that second and a half. It is back down about 1.2 seconds between himself and Binkley, who's not allowing him to run away quite yet. Meanwhile, great start here off the final turn. Oh, Nick Francis has a slowdown penalty, having to give up massive time on the second lap. This is costly. So many positions absolutely streaming by him. This is unfortunate to see. Zaharachuk's going to try and capitalize on it as he reaches the first corner, but he doesn't quite get to the purple and black car in time. Meanwhile, in front of Trollitt now leading what looks like a bit of a train of cars. That's Douglas, Francis, and Zaharachuk all kind of lining up behind him. We'll see if we wind up getting a bottleneck here, or if Trollitt can start to run away. Also, maybe have a replay for Ward Preston, who causes his own bottleneck as there's not many places to go with walls on either side of the Peraltada. Thankfully, looks like it did not become a worse accident, and he's able to carry on at the back of the field. Dave Douglas looking very strong here. I wonder if that was a little bit offline for Trollitt. Oh, and Francis with more problems. It has all gone awry in the first 2 laps for the 55. Spins, not sure if he had any help there through the S's, but whatever the case, he finds himself dropping down multiple positions, spun on his way in. Looks like either the curb or the grass may have caught him out. Eventually, he'll trundle his way back onto the racing surface. Thankfully, has plenty of room to make a safer entry compared to someplace like here, what we saw there for our driver that spun a little bit earlier. This is a battle for 7th now. Adam Gerling just ahead of Corbett. Corbett gets a very good run. We've seen cars this close before, so I don't think he'll be able to pull up behind him in the slipstream and be able to make that pass, but you never know. He could be brave on the brakes. He seems to think so, as he at least tries to size him up. But that psychological trick does not work, and Gerling stays on the racing line. Corbett still stays in that 8th position. This all behind Zaharchuk, who's kind of separated himself from them, although Sheldon has also dropped off of Trollitt and Douglas. Back up to our leader, Danley. Now back to 1.5 seconds. So he lost a little bit of it at the end of the first lap, but he's making it back up. And then Binkley still chasing him, is about 2 seconds behind. So Danley doing a fantastic job here. And I think we might still actually be on replay. Yes, I believe we might be a little bit behind on our timing here, because I see Zaharchuk on my timing and scoring heading out of the S's currently. But just behind him, you can see Gerling and Corbett still close to one another. Here we go. Now we've come live between our cars, and just behind them, we've got a battle between Hales and Lynn. This is for 10th. Just inside that top 10, Bergzon is just behind them. Todd Goldberg, Andrew Elsom. Kind of expected cars to be very close, battling with one another for much of this race, although we are early, only 5 minutes into this 60-minute race. Switching ahead to Zaharchuk. Yeah, he's lost a little time. He was, I want to say, about 2 seconds ahead of Gerling for a while. Now it's gone back down to 1.2. Seems to be a bit of an ebb and flow. Definitely some difficult corners around this track. Mistake generators, as I've heard the great Martin Brundle once say. And I feel like this track has a lot of those that really trip up drivers that are maybe just not focused enough in some of the more technical portions. Gerling and Corbett still fighting with one another, maybe losing touch with Zaharchuk slightly through this section, right up on the bumper. Gerling still having to deal with Corbett filling his mirrors through the fork. Let's see if the S's make any sort of difference as we hop on board with the Arizona region driver. You can see it bouncing around. Thought for a second maybe lost control of it a little bit, but looks like he is still well within the limit of this car. Out of the S's now, down the Recta de Avalo, the oval straight, if you will, and into the braking to join the stadium. Just can't seem to make room. Different lines between the pair of them as they head into the hairpin, through the stadium section, through the virtual cheering fans. And Corbett remains about half a second behind Adam Gerling, fighting for that 7th position. Did see some drivers try to do some tricky things at times with the pit stops. We see that here today as well. These drivers potentially get stuck behind one another in some spots. I can report that I just saw Nick Francis on our timing and scoring drop a lot of spots. Things have just unraveled completely for the for that driver, for the 55. Oh, was this one contact, though? Coming down to the hairpin, indeed it was. He gets turned around. And impressively, I have to say, credit to the field. We have not seen any penalties yet, but I fear that may be our first one of this race. Oh, Dave Douglas with issues. Looks to find an open spot to return to the circuit. He's all the way down to 13th. He was within the top 10. I think it was close to the top 5, in fact. And he'll get back in around 13th position, I believe. So what has happened to the plaid-colored Radio Shack machine? Just a little bit too hot into the fork, and has to actually back it up with a K-turn before he's able to get it going. Sometimes keeping the mistakes away can help you get a good finish. Wouldn't be surprised if we got a few hard chargers out of this that just keep it together. And honestly, once you get into the sport and challenge classes, that is not a bad strategy. You may not have pace, but if you have consistency, you'll find yourself picking them up left and right sometimes. As for our hard chargers, I do see it looks like Curtis Crummell and Darren Lower are both up 6 right now. They're towards the back of the field, so they've been having a very good race. Battle for second, though, on our screen. Lee Binkley versus Daniel Harmon. I thought it was going to be Lee trying to keep Danley honest up there, but apparently not. Harmon now within 0.2 of a second. He could try and be tricky coming down to the braking of turn 4. Does he try and slide one up the inside, or is Binkley going to hold him at bay? He is going to go for it. Binkley does not defend. He'll go around the outside, which gives him the inside for the second half of the chicane. Harmon unable to cut back underneath. And Matt Trollitt, in his first race here with PCA, is looking phenomenal as he is up in 4th and now potentially going to be challenging for a podium position. Back and forth once again through the S's now. Trollitt making Harmon think twice, because I'm sure Daniel will continue to want to put the pressure on Lee. Now he's got to have chameleon eyes. He cannot leave himself vulnerable to that 510 car. He makes a wrong move, he could open the door for the purple machine to just slide underneath or just get a better exit out of a corner and sneak on by him. Everyone trying to put the throttle down as soon as they can. Once again, onto the main straight, out of the Peraltada. And Binkley looks like he got a good one. He keeps himself well clear of Harmon. I don't think there's going to be a threat this time. Drivers getting massive amounts of speed here, coming down into turn 1. Seeing nearly 160 miles an hour in these cars. This is close, though. Great exit by Harmon. This was the corner he tried last time, but this time Binkley is covering the inside. Will this make the difference? Can Daniel go the long way around the first apex to give him the inside of the second one, or will Binkley go long? And that could be the chance that Harmon needs. Indeed, he finishes the job through turn 5. Beautifully done by the number 4. That puts him into P2. Trollitt can't quite do the same sitting behind him, but now he's very close to the O2, and he knows he can make mistakes if you pressure him enough. Just beautiful stuff by the number 4. Now, will this free him up, though, to chase Danley down, because he's got 5.5 seconds to make up to the leader. Still a long ways, only 12 minutes into this 60-minute race. He could potentially, we'll have to wait and see now that he is in clear air, if this means Daniel Harmon will be faster. His best lap is actually faster by about half a second than Danley's fastest lap. Some of that could play into track limits, because the sim does not count a lap towards fastest lap if you get a 1X. We just saw Hammond got a black flag. That was for an incident on lap 6. And that was with the 901 of David Langston. So I'm not sure if we saw that replay or not. But whatever the case, that'll be a penalty for Kevin. It definitely looks like Daniel was being held up. Look at how far ahead he already is. 1.5 seconds and it's a little bit less than a lap that he has had in free air. So here's what caused that black flag for Hammond. Ooh, well, maybe not. I'm not sure. I didn't think I saw contact there, at least that I think he'd be penalized for, unless, you know, he had a safe rejoin. Interesting. So he's had more than one problem today. Well, Kevin's already down in last place. We've lost one of our drivers. Randy Lervold had connection issues. And there's Langston in the 901. There's what caused the penalty. It was through the S's. So not too surprising on that one. This series very strict about car contact. They do not want drivers to be making contact with one another. They want hard racing, but they want to try and do it cleanly. Battle for P11. Ankerberg zone with Goldberg and Douglas breathing down his neck. In fact, Todd has a good run here on Bergson. He's going to try and duck to the inside. He outbrakes him into the corner. As long as he makes that corner, I think he might have it. No! Great defense from Anker. He's back ahead. Here comes Dave Douglas. He says, thank you very much. That's the sort of opportunity I've been looking for. And now Dave is back into 12th. One position gained back from what he lost earlier, but the two are going to come together, and Dave is into the outside wall. Oh, and spinning back across the track, Goldberg as well will suffer from his own hubris. Oh, that is unfortunate between the pair of them, and this really shows how tough it is to try and rejoin safely. As the cars, in fact, he's going to get hit as he just has no place to try and rejoin. I feel like he's got to just get on the throttle here. There we go. He can finally get going. Oh, man. Goldberg, though, is in a much more precarious position. And into pit lane comes Dave Douglas. Goldberg stays out. That was certainly a lively moment between those two. Unfortunately, not what we wanted to see in that situation. Battle for 8th as Alan Hales is just ahead of Dennis Lynn and Daniel Corbett. Corbett where he started. Lynn, though, up 4 spots. Nice run here at the beginning of the race. The higher you get in the field, harder it is to make those positions up. So gaining 4 spots within the top 10 is a pretty nice achievement. By the way, I've been kind of keeping an eye as we check out what happened to Curtis Crummell here. Oh, yeah, and I can understand why he would be surprised by that car being there. You would see a yellow flag being shown by the sim, but it doesn't always tell you exactly where that car is. Your spotter will tell you a stopped car on the outside, maybe potentially, or on the left-hand side of the track, but you just don't know what you're going to come upon. Why it's important to listen to those yellow flags and have some caution heading into those blind corners. Back to the battle between Hales, Lynn, and Corbett. Corbett slips up. He falls away a little bit. Lynn getting close to Alan Hales, but he's not quite close enough. I was going to say, I was kind of watching Harmon. Last lap, a 41.9. Danley, a 42.5. It is down to 3 seconds. Daniel Harmon is coming, and Danley's going to have to pick up the pace. We'll check in on that later on, because I do believe a battle could be brewing soon for the lead. That will be fun to witness. See if Danley can hold off what looks like a very hard charging number 4. So continuing to watch Lynn behind Hales. Checking in on Danley actually now. Coming up towards the breaking of the stadium section. Let's see what this lap will look like between himself and Harmon. In fact, I think that's a little bit of lap traffic. That is Kevin Hammond after serving his penalty. That is not for position. However, they do have blue flag rules in this league that are different from iRacing's blue flag rules. Once you get within 1 second of the car ahead, that car has 3 corners to pull over and let you by. This time, the lap for Danley, a 42.3, slightly quicker, but Harmon was still at a 41.9. Still about 0.4 of a second faster. He is chopping away at it. Trollet in 3rd. onto the podium in his first attempt. Very good signs for him, but Lee Binkley is certainly keeping him within range. There he's in that red and white car that's just behind him. Also want to give credit to Zaharachuk. He's in that bright yellow car that you see holding on to the 630. Top 5 for him currently. Back with Hales, Lynn, Corbett. Starting to separate compared to what we saw before. Not sure that this is quite as close as what we have been watching. No, excuse me, this is Gerling, Hales, and Lynn. Pardon me. That's Gerling up at the front in the two-tone blue car. Do like that livery, by the way. Love a nice gradient on our livery here in iRacing. Not as easy to do as you would think, honestly. Oh, big problem behind, though, as that was Dennis Lynn losing control, winding up just scraping the barrier. Don't think he caused too much damage, but will lose quite a bit of time. Was all the way up into 9th place and is suddenly, actually I think it was in 8th place, now down to 14th. Make that, oh goodness, 19th as 4 more cars go by. Should have an open gap. Will be able to make his way in 21st. Ouch. That was a costly mistake. At least the car is back going, and like I said, it doesn't look like it is damaged. We do have a spare car in this series, so you can repair damage after your pit stop, get back out, and be perfectly good. He did get a pretty good thwack there from that angle. I didn't think he hit it quite that hard. Yeah, and he is heading into the pits. So he is going to probably take that free repair. But this is very early. Now, you can go as far as, I believe, last time we saw roughly about 12 minutes left to go. So he's easily within the pit window. But he is now going to be running on heavier fuel than everybody else around him. And he's going to have to deal with traffic, slower traffic, as he will be out of position. Gerling not only keeping those cars behind, which now is down to only Alan Hales, but catching up to Lee Binkley. And this is why. Lee Binkley with a spin. Coming out of turn 2, will get it going once more. That puts Binkley down into 6th. Zaharachuk now up in P4. Andrew Long into 5th. That helps out Trollitt. Trollitt now no longer has any pressure from behind. Chugging along lap by lap. This is looking pretty good for the 5:10. Meanwhile, coming back around onto the main straight. Gerling still has to worry about Hales. You can see the 74 within reach. The red, white, and blue car that's getting chase on screen now. Definitely not an opportunity down into turn 1 this time. I did hear some chatter over the radio that Matt Sachs not too pleased about something. He's having the stewards look at somebody he feels is not racing within the rules. See what becomes of that. We still only have a single penalty. And that was Hammond. Again, a testament on the first race of the season. Usually you get things a little messy as new drivers come in. Maybe you're still learning the ropes, or people are just a little bit rusty. Hales currently up 3 spots. Gerling after that spin. Or excuse me, no, it was Binkley after the spin. Down 3. Gerling's down 1 from where he started, though. Corbett starting to get ever closer to that 74. Alan Hale's going to have to go from attack to defense as we hop on board with Corbett. Now, whoa, very strong on the brakes, coming down into the stadium. Impressive stuff. Almost looks like he caught him out a little bit as he struggles to get the throttle down coming off the corner. Big bump as they exit the curb. They need to get the power down coming out of the Peraltada. And yeah, I think that kind of did him in a little bit. He lost touch with Hales on the main straight right when he wants it. Got problems for Dave Douglas in the meantime. His woes are not over. Winds up sideways this time and did not have help. In fact, trying to do the right thing. He backs across the track, although I think he got away with that one. I think he should be fine not to get a unsafe re-entry on there, as the other car seemed to have enough time to see which way he was going. In the meantime, back to Hales and Corbett. Up towards the fork. Daniels made up for the lost time that he had on the main straight. Unfortunately for him, this is not an easy place to try and get by. Have to wait patiently, maybe for a mistake from Allen coming through the S's. Let's see what happens as they both take into this long sequence of corners, snaking through the park here. Does look like it's a little bit offline there for Hales. Yes, indeed it is. He's going to be slow. Corbett's got to run. Can he take the inside away? That's the question. And a late move. Alan Hales wants to defend, but it's not good enough. He'll have to leave the door open as Daniel managed to get the inside too early. And now Corbett is into 8th. Nicely done. Could still fight back. Bergzone was getting close, but was put off as they approached. It's got Costas in behind him, too. So what was a two-car fight has now become a quartet. Getting close to the halfway mark of this race as well. Highest driver to have pitted so far, Anthony James. That was about a lap ago, it looks like. He's down in 29th. Otherwise, very few drivers have come into pit lane. Most of them, I believe, have had some sort of issue that merited visiting early and taking that spare car. Our quartet seems to be breaking up into two duos, unfortunately, for those that were looking for a little bit of more craziness out there. Oh, but look at this. Got a battle coming down into turn 1 for 20th position. That's being led by Braun, Mulaney in the middle, and Nick Francis in the 55, who is on a recovery drive. Gets a good exit. Does he have enough to make this stick, though? He's going to have to be on the outside into the first part of this sequence of corners. Sends it in deep, but he does indeed make the apex first, and that's going to move him up into 20th. Problems for Johan Nye. Oh, and he does not avoid the wall. Pancakes the left-hand side. And I think that was out of turn 3. Let's come back live on board with De Silva. 16th position, chasing on Tim Thornton. Jeff Gardner just in front of him. You can already see a little bit of damage on the back of Thornton's machine. Center bumper punched in slightly, where someone may have made some contact. We mentioned we were watching from De Silva's perspective. He's also got Jeff Williams behind him and Ed Trippett. Gardner doing a beautiful job getting away from those behind him. Stretches out to nearly 3/4 of a second over Tim Thornton. So he's not going to have an issue coming down into turn 1. It's a slight motion of either attack or defense from De Silva. Either way, he moves back to the racing line. So he wasn't too worried about it, just maybe covering it off. Francis gets another one. Christian Braun can't hold him behind. Nick up into 19th. For all of his problems early on, I'd say he's doing a good job now buckling down and just getting the race in, getting the passes done. Sometimes you just have to put that stuff behind you and focus forward. I think he's doing an excellent job at this stage of the race. I think we had a problem for, looks like David Langston, who's now dropped a bunch of positions. We've got a replay on that one. Again, turn 3. No, it was turn 2, technically. And he kept it from hitting anything. So, yeah, 3 90-degree or practically 90-degree corners. And as simple as that would seem, it seems like it's a lot harder than you would imagine, as it's caught out a number of drivers already in this race. Hopefully he doesn't catch out Ankerberg's own. Running 10th position. Costas behind. Joseph Evers not too far back as well. Under braking into the corner. He's going to be able to make the first apex. Takes a lot of the curb on that second apex. That definitely helps him. He's catching up to Hales and Corbett just in front of him. More so just Hales, because it looks like that is in fact a lapped car that is pulling off to the side, letting the group through. Very nicely done. That was Donald Manning, so credit to Donald. Being very aware in the situation. Watching on the dash of Costas, out of the fork now. The bird zone, like I said, looked so strong that first part. He's still got some pressure from behind. A bit wide on the first part of the S's. But we feel the pain of that on the way out of the S's. We've already shown once in this race how that can cost you a position. But nope, he has got it all together by the time they head towards the oval straight. Costas can't do much about it. Oh, but he's going to be sneaky, coming down to the stadium. Nearly makes contact. He's given just enough room by Anker. Ambitious stuff. It's a good thing that Anker is as good of a driver as he is. The lesser driver may have wound up cutting him off down to the apex, and the two would have made contact. Credit to both of them. Spicy stuff, but it came out good in the end. However, Anker finds himself now 1.3 seconds off of Alan Hales, having to make that defense, and Costas is paying the price for a bad exit. There goes Joseph Evers. A good run and good braking down into turn 1 moves him up into 11th. Now officially past the halfway mark of this race. Under 30 minutes left to go. We've got another taker in pit lane. Ed Trippett has come in. 10-second pit stop. That should be a typical pit stop here. In fact, that should be a shorter stop. Anthony James at 7 seconds in the 2:16 might have trouble getting to the end, because that seems way too shy on fuel. Back up to Gerling, leading Corbett, although he's almost a second ahead of him now. So he got himself a good bit of breathing space over his rival. Heard that the 720 is under review. Trying to figure out, that's Torrigiani, who's up 8 positions. So hopefully that's not a penalty. Not sure who that is in relation to. This is Torrigiani in the red, white, and green. Claims Italy as his country, if you couldn't tell from the livery, and is chasing down Dennis Lynn. Lynn has also taken a pit stop. We followed Lynn after a little bit of contact with the wall, taking an early stop. 11 seconds. Is actually running away from Patrizio now. Kind of makes me curious if there was something. I'm going to go check on my computer to see if there was something involved between the two of them. Did make a pass just recently coming through turn 1, so not sure if that's what Patrizio was complaining about, because I don't think they made any sort of contact. Heading back to 10th position, Anker ahead of Joseph Evers. Hill's running away from him. So here we go. Here is Torrigiani. Went into the corner, and there was suddenly a car there. I don't blame him for turning in. You do not expect passes attempted in the middle of the S's typically. We do have another penalty, the 21. And I believe that was the other car. Yes, that was the other car involved. Todd Goldberg was given a black flag for that incident, and he was just in pit lane, so I fear he'll have to come and make a second visit. Here's on board with Goldberg. Yeah, I mean, I understand the desire, but I fear that was quite ambitious. So I don't blame the stewards for giving him a black flag. What's going on with Gerling now? Corbett half a second behind him. Not going to be near enough to make this a battle down into turn 1. Let's not forget, though, still have pit stops to come. Not thinking most of them will be pitting now. Maybe a few drivers could try to go for the early call, but as I illustrated earlier, if you pit early, you'll be wearing more fuel, if you will, carrying along more fuel in the car. So you will theoretically be a little bit slower on that front, as Jeff Gardner is going to make a nice move down into turn 1 and get 14th over Thornton. Doesn't seem to fight it too hard. Nick Francis on his recovery drive, actually behind them. Wow, he's up to 16th. We saw him as far down as 21st when we first kind of followed some of his moves, so this is looking very good. I do like the sort of Jaws-themed thing that Tim has going on with his car. A little gruesome looking. Don't think it's anything we'll get in trouble with, though, on the channel. It's getting spicy now between Gerling and Corbett. Corbett had a run. Gerling covers him off. Prevents being able to get by down to the stadium. Still has to cover off down into the hairpin of the stadium as well. This could have put him on the back foot. Heading onto the main straight. Look at how close Daniel is. This might be enough. While the slipstream has generally not been powerful enough to get many slam dunk passes, I think the 556 could have this one in hand. Does Gerling once again defend? He holds the left-hand side, at least initially. Corbett shows his nose. His intentions are there, but he can't quite outbreak his rival. He has to hold off. Thought for sure that was going to be a chance for him. Hopping on board with Daniel now. This is down into turn 4. You can tell that Gerling is not feeling safe. Again, covering himself off, coming in to turn 4. Sometimes you can't defend every corner. You got to try and just run your racing line and trust about how far back that car behind you is that they can't make a move. Such as right here. This is the good call, I think, from that 249. Sticking on the racing line. He needs it into the S's. You can't put yourself out of the rhythm of this section. Corbett with a little bit of a slip up on one of the apexes, costing himself some time. Does get a good exit. He's going to hold on to him coming down the oval straight. Again, tries to fake him out. See if he could maybe get him off the apex. Gerling's not going to fall for that one. He does cover the inside coming down to the hairpin. Can get away with that, but as we saw last time, can sometimes make you vulnerable here if you haven't recovered enough to really take the racing line. And look at that. Those cars behind them, that's all for position. That's Alan Hales, that's Ankerberg Zong, that's Joseph Evers, Christopher Costas. And that is the other downside to going off the racing line. Slower lap times mean you start backing everybody up, and that just causes all kinds of chaos sometimes. Could be good. If Corbett finds himself under attack, that could distract him, give Gerling more of a chance to try and run away. We'll see what it winds up being. Curtis Crubble now getting in trouble. Oh, he does. He avoids involving other cars in it. He needs to back up a little bit. Nope, he can get it going, get it turned around. And then Ward Preston as well, looking like you got a replay on him. Car behind close, but it did not look like contact to me, except for with the wall. Unfortunately, the 007 was, in fact, shaken. I'll stir it back in the right direction. We got a lot of replays at this part of the race, apparently. Tires are giving out. Wanker after what was such a good race. And, okay, it looks like the car fixed itself. So a little bit of netcode damage initially. That can happen in the sim. It takes it a second sometimes for the host computers to figure out what exactly happened. Oh, and once again, a car going for a move of the S's this time. Francis makes it stick. Wow. The 55 with a bold move to put himself into 14th. That was gutsy. It was risky, but he pulled it off. Credit to Gardner for seeing that one coming. Here's a replay. Again, I can't stress how hard that is into that corner. It is pretty fast. And you're so focused on your own racing that you really do not expect the car to be there. Looks like Joseph Evers is now headed in pit lane. He's our latest. Danley. Oh, Danley is pitted from the lead. I don't think we covered this. Danley is now... Oh, and he just spun. Our former leader has just spun. Something has gone wrong for the 86. He's got it moving. Wow. So now Harmon is your leader, but he could be your leader even after the pit stops with that little half spin from the 86 car. That was, I think, 2 laps ago that Danley had his pit stop. Double checking. Yes, 2 laps ago that he was in. Interesting that he snuck in there. It must have been while we were watching all those replays that he decided he wanted to go a little bit early. Not common for the leader to do that. Usually you want to try and run it as long as possible. So here is that incident. Already, before he got the curb, it looked like that rear was starting to go around on him. Interesting stuff. Harmon did not try and pit this time, although Andrew Long has. So there's another front runner pitting in. Battle for P6, but it is now P5. Girling versus Corbett. This has been stuck in a stalemate for quite a few laps at this stage. Corbett's got to be careful that he doesn't get too stuck in the rhythm behind the 249. That's a lapped car that they just went by. That was Torrigiani. Has taken his pit stop, it looks like. Oh, Langston, in a precarious spot out of the exit of the stadium entrance, and thankfully finds himself some room to get moving. If Girling can hold off Corbett for what seems like about half of this race, I'll be massively impressed. It is not easy leading that car behind and keeping mistakes away, at least in the critical moments, that you don't get overtaken. It is a skill in its own. Some drivers are better leading, some are better following. While he leads, he does seem to feel just a little bit on edge. He goes defensive once and twice in consecutive corners. Oh, and cutting underneath them, maybe trying to make the move right here. Is this where Corbett gets it done? Another unusual spot that we're seeing for a pass, but no, he does not have it. He could duck in behind him, and he does. He'll get a nice little toe, and it may be a second bite at the apple up into turn 1. The Asses Moises Solana. Could this be the spot where he makes that pass stick this time? Looks down to the inside, but no, nothing doing. Thought that Corbett had snuck up and really surprised Girling with what was, I have to say, a creative move. He set that one up, pulled the over-under, and just about made it happen. We'll have to jot that one down for later. Make a mental note. Sometimes you have to catch your rivals off guard. And I can report that Andrew Long, having pitted, is ahead of Danley. So at least one car will be ahead of him. Whoa, as we're side by side. Battle for P19. Williams just ahead of Evers, and he will remain victorious. Yerxa is the car behind them. Kind of make it a three-car fight. Still haven't seen our current leader, Harmon, pit in, but I think it's safe to say that that car will emerge the leader as things sit now, barring a bad pit stop. Will Corbett maybe try to pit in soon? Getting close to the end of that pit window. He could maybe use a bit of that clear air. Does seem to be rather quick, but he's certainly not electing to this time by. Andrew Elsom just pitted behind them, though, so he's into... Oh, no, he did not pit it. He just had a spin, excuse me. Meanwhile, another look here from Corbett. Then back to the racing line. Second look. Is he going to be a little more gutsy on the brakes this time? He wants to be, but he is right on his limit. Gerling just preventing him from being able to outbrake him. Elsom, this is what surprised me. Seeing cars dropping down the order, I immediately default to that driver's probably pitting, which Elsom did after his incident. Whoa, another defensive move here. Down into turn 4. Gerling has definitely not had it all his own way. He has had to fight hard to defend that spot. And wow, must have been a mistake from Corbett there, because he drops back by almost a second. Interesting. Not sure if he had a slowdown penalty or if there was something else that caused problems. Andrew Long, in front of our former leader. And, here you go. How about this for Nick Francis? Not sure that he'll be aware that Danley's had that spin, but probably feeling pretty good. Back with what was our leader at one point. Francis up into P12. Man, I multiple incidents for the 55, and getting back up this high is a huge credit to Nick Francis. This is a fantastic and classy drive for him. Wherever he winds up, I tip my hat to him. He's just been never say die today, and I do love when drivers don't let it get them down, although he smacks the outside wall. He's pushing hard. He sees Danley, and he wants to try and make that pass. Not going to happen this time, especially with that bad exit coming out of Peraltada. And Andrew Long actually runs away a little bit from the three of them, too, so they all spread out. Chris Braun, another car with issues on the penultimate corner. Hopefully, driver coming up close behind is able to get through. Whew, close moment, getting turned. I don't think he hit the wall, but he's deciding it's good enough time to come into the pits anyways. Just about shaved the teeth off of Roxy there. Car having a spin in front of Gerling, trying to stay out of the way, not to cause an issue. Nicely done. Corbett gets a run, but not enough of one. There's DiVincenzo that we're going to see the replay of right here. Curbs just upset the car on the way in, it looks like. And again, 13 minutes left. I feel like Corbett should probably pit first. Try the undercut. You've been stuck behind for so long. Daniel disagrees with me. He's going to stick it out. Surely they should mostly be pitting soon. Alan Hale's behind them, just elected to pit in. Corbett's close. Corbett again moves down to the inside, motions to where he wants to send the car, but just can't get the overlap. Does not have the outbraking that he needs to get by Gerling. It's been perhaps a bit of his weakness. As we ride above, you can see the gap between them, maybe about 2 car lengths. Coming down under braking. Still waiting for Harmon, Trollet, Zaharchuk all to pit in. And and Corbett just spun. Corbett has spun, and there goes what was a great drive from him, too. He loses his spot to Costas in the process and gets going before Ankerberg's own can demote him another one. Daniel Harmon just pitted in. Our leader should be able to emerge in front. Yes, because Trollet is also pitting. Had quite a gap over Matthew. Looks like Andrew Long has a black and orange flag, so he must have gotten some damage. Oh, inside curb. You could see the rear of that car just kind of jump there. And that's all she wrote. Could not slow the momentum of the rear tires, and they just whipped around. Harmon does emerge our leader ahead of Zaharchuk, who stays out. Binkley takes third as Trollet is still taking his pit stop. Oh, Trollet with a very long stop, though. I wonder if he took tires. 21 second, or at least took one tire by accident. Often you can have new drivers that forget to switch over. Oh, and he's got a black flag as well. Oh, no. He must have sped out of pit lane. It was a great race for the 510, and then suddenly it just fell apart for him in the blink of an eye. That is just an utter shame. He was doing so well, but it is early days, and there's time to work out the bugs. Just unfortunate that he won't be able to finish race one on the podium now. At least it'll be highly unlikely for him to. It must have been really minor coming back on to the straight, because it didn't look really massive that he would peeled out of pit lane there. That or he went over the white line. I didn't quite, I looked away for just a second. I didn't think to check if he had gone over. But regardless, damage is done with the long pit stop already. He's down in 7th spot. And I think, did we lose our leader? Where's Harmon? No, excuse me, Harmon's still out there. Pardon me. But Stefan Danley is gone. So here is the moment where the car hoofs into the ether. Or was that... Oh. Okay, that happened right as he had an incident. I wonder if that was an incident limit. That would be interesting, because we know he had one spin, but that only counts for 2 incident points. Trollet is now taking his pit stop, or at least his penalty, I should say. Thornton is a pit stop. Ankerberg's on in and out. Mullaney as well. Yeah, 25 incidents in an instant DQ. Actually, you know what? I can check this. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, it is indeed. The black flag with a white cross on it. Stephen Danley has been disqualified. And the unfortunate side, one of the rules state in PCA, if you are disqualified for whatever reason, you do not score points for that round. Wow. Things have been turned on their head a little bit. Oh, incident in front. So Douglas with a bit of a spin. Whoa! And picking... If he had... That was Andrew Long hitting him. If he had just kept going, he actually would have been a little bit more okay. But because he paused right on the racing line, that made life a whole lot worse. Whew. Well, things started great. And things have kind of gone awry for a number of drivers here at the very end. Less than 10 minutes to go. Daniel Harmon, I'm crossing fingers, I'm knocking on wood, and I'm doing everything I can. The bad luck does not strike the number 4 car. Gurley now runs in second, but still owes us a pit stop. And that is 18 seconds between them, so that's massive. Zaharchuk currently runs third, but I think will get promoted into P2 once Gerling pits. Corbett pits now. Now, was that at the same time? Well, I guess that doesn't matter. He had his spin, so. Nick Francis, where does Nick emerge after his pit stop? Nick is out in 10th position right now. Wow. Wow, wow. Down outside the top 20 and making up a massive amount of spots here. It might say -8 next to his name in terms of positions lost. But I think he's done a really good job as Daniel Corbett was off to the side, and Francis is gifted another one. Corbett, another driver that seemingly is riddled with mistakes right at the very end. Is this another curb problem? Yeah, I'd say so. Gotta watch out for those sausage curbs. Wow. So a few drivers really just with the weight transfer of these Porsches hitting those big curbs has proved too much. I had mentioned some of the curbs could be a little bit dangerous for these cars early on in today's show. And you can't abuse some of them. You got to watch out which ones you really clobber and how. 5 minutes left with lap times in the minute 42s. We're looking at maybe about 3 or 4 laps left. Battle for P12 here. James leads Lynn, leads Gardner. And that, I believe, is a lapped car behind them. Yeah, that is Goldberg. So that's not for position. The golden car just in front of them. Nick Francis, is he going to get another one? He's still hungry. Ankerberg zone does not defend. He leaves the door open down to the inside of turn 1. Francis now into P8. Started on the front row. Fell well down the field. And suddenly, he has just been picking them up and putting them down. Still waiting on Gerling to take a pit stop. This is going to be a huge gap, by the way, for our winner. If Zaharchuk does move into P2, we're looking at a 34-second gap for the win. Absolutely massive. Gerling does pit this lap, I can report. So we continue to watch Francis. There is Gerling. And Zaharchuk coming around the corner. Yeah, he should overtake him. Sheldon looking at a second place here. Does Binkley get by in time? I think that's one of the questions. There goes Zaharchuk. Gerling getting moving. Binkley's already going. And yes, he should be easily by, and he is. Binkley up onto the podium. He had a problem earlier on, so he's probably going to be beside himself that he gets to spray some champagne. Definitely not what he was expecting. Started from third, so maybe he did expect it at the start of the race, but I think as it went on, probably figured he may have lost his opportunity. Battle for P12, heating up once again, James and Lynn. Following in the draft. I don't think that's going to do it. Lynn's just a bit too far back. James may be trying to keep himself out of that slipstream. There have been a few incidents reviewed, by the way, but we have not seen any more penalties recently. This is Curtis Crummell getting involved in one. And Hammond, who we already saw involved in an incident earlier on, getting penalized. Maybe we'll be on the opposite end of the stick. In with James once more. Len actually dropping off now to about 9/10 of a second. Looking pretty solid for Anthony to be able to run away with this one. The gap between P1 and P2, 35.5 seconds at the front of the field. 2.5 minutes left to go. Darren Lower. Oh, car starts to go on its own. Didn't have car contact to spin him around in that very same corner from the last replay. Switching over to Joseph Evers. Haven't really checked in on him in a while. And the bad news for him is that Nick Francis is the next car approaching. We have our latest black flag, Curtis Crummell. And we saw that replay of. I am not too surprised there. It was definitely pretty obvious nose to quarter panel contact there coming into a fast corner. Francis is going to want to avoid that fate. He wants to get 7th. And that might be the last spot he can get, because it's another 6 seconds up to Joseph Evers from there. Or up to Alan Hales, rather, I should say. Past Joseph Evers. Evers is the one in front of him. This is Costas and Hales actually fighting themselves. So that, yes, they could cost themselves time, but I don't think quite going to work out. Now, are we on the last lap? I think we might be. Because Harmon, I think, has gone by just recently. So this should be the last time around. Especially once these two get to the start-finish line, they should also get that white flag. Poor Crummell is going to have to serve that penalty, and he does now. Okay, that's good. You don't want to serve the penalty on the last lap of the race, because you would have gotten a time penalty anyways. And since the finish line here is before the pit stall, most likely, you wind up being given that time penalty even if you come into pit lane. So yeah, sometimes you need to be cognizant of those situations. Ooh, Nick Francis with a move. Did he actually get it done? Yes, he did. That's P7 ahead of Joseph Evers. But as they take the white flag, they are battling once again. Meanwhile, we're watching Dan Harmon coming down to the stadium section. Just a great race. There's that battle I was talking about into turn 1. Evers trying to fight back. Francis doesn't want to give it up. They almost touch down through turn 3. He's going to try and get the throttle down, but Evers does it better, and he starts to pull ahead. Meanwhile, we got to go back to Harmon. He'll cross the line and win here in Mexico City from 5th place. An impressive run while the battle rages. Oh, it comes together! Francis and Evers. Oh, right at the very end. For Nick Francis, he is not going to be happy, and they'll clatter together for a second time. Oh, multiple cars go by. A dismayed finish after things were so impressive for Francis. He does get the car moving, but it looks like his rival came to a halt. Zaharachuk is going to come around and take a beautiful P2. And Binkley will finish where he started with a 3rd place. Well done to the O2 to come back. Bounce back, really, on this one. Adam Gerling as well. Impressively well done. Having to defend so much throughout the race. A 4th place for him. Costas with a top 5. Alan Hales with a 6. And Ankerberg Zone from 15th to 8th. Costas, by the way, 14 positions gained. Unbelievable. So where did Nick Francis wind up? And will he wind up with a penalty post-race? He crosses the line in 9th. Could have been P7. 2 positions lost. Not too bad considering. Car looking a little bit second rate, though, unfortunately, post-race. Tim Thornton up 11 spots. Should be proud of that one. Anthony James as well, up 12 as he crosses the line, almost looking like he might be out of fuel. Not sure if, because he's just kind of coasting. Interesting stuff there. And that is everybody finishing on the lead lap, with Jeff Williams being the last one. Joseph Evers did not manage to finish after he came in contact there with Nick Francis. What a wild finish to this race. Daniel Harmon will take the win in the meantime. 38 seconds was the gap in the end. He trounced the field. Sheldon Zaharachuk was second, and Lee Binkley rounded out your podium. Adam Gerling took a 4th place as Christopher Costas was 5th and Alan Hales was 6th. Ankerberg Zahn, P7 for him, was ahead of Daniel Corbett. Could have had maybe a little bit more on that one. Could have been a 5th place for him. As Nick Francis was 9th and Ed Trippett rounds out your top 10. Dennis Lynn will finish in 11th today. Jeff Gardner was P12 and Tim Thornton 13th. Antonio Da Silva P14 and Christian Braun in the 15th spot. Andrew Elsom was 16th, Anthony James in 17th, Jeff Williams in 18th. Joseph Evers losing his lap, having not taken the checkered flag, will finish 19th, and Peter Yerxa will be in at 20th. Kevin Hammond, with his penalty, he wound up 21st today. Trollet, 22nd, also getting a penalty. Could have been so much better, a potential podium. Darren Lower was 23rd. DiVincenzo was 24th, and Mike Sachs was 25th. Then it was Andrew Long in 26th position, Johan Nye in 27th, and Curtis Crummell 28th. Patrizio Torregiani 29th, and Todd Goldberg in 30th, a lap down. Same deal for David Langstrom in 31st and Ryan Mullaney in 32nd. From there, we get our DNFs: Britt Danley, Dave Douglas, Ward Preston, Donald Manning, and Randy Lervold was a did not start. I believe we've got Dan Harmon ready to chat with us. So I'd love to hear his thoughts on this race, because Dan, we saw you trying to chase down the leader. You were getting closer as the laps ticked by. Then suddenly he pitted early and he disappeared on us with unfortunately too many incident points. At what point did you realize you were about to inherit the lead?
Yeah, it was pretty early on. I think he had a slowdown penalty because all of a sudden he just lost pace on one of the straights, and that was kind of the opportunity to make a move. And after that, like you said, I didn't really see him anymore.
Bit unfortunate, but I'm sure great for you to have that cruise to victory. Coming into the first race of the season, did you expect to be leading by 38 seconds by the checkered flag?
You know, not really. When I started practicing for Mexico, I was very, very slow, and I think it just frustrated me. So I put quite a bit of time into it, and I actually kind of got to where I really liked this track. The S's killed me when I first started, and then it got to where I started to understand the flow, and it's a blast when you get it right.
Does look like you had a blast out there. But that said, you've set the bar high for yourself. You kick things off with a win. What does this do for your expectations for the rest of the season?
Yeah, lots of practice, I guess. I'm going to have to get ahead. I've not spent much time on a lot of the courses this season, so it could be a lot of seat time for me.
Well, regardless, congratulations. Like I said, it starts off well. Go enjoy the victory.
Thanks. Appreciate it, everybody.
Daniel Harmon, your winner today by a large margin. We do have the driver behind him, Sheldon Zaharachuk. Let's talk to Sheldon, see how he felt about it. First off, congratulations on the podium. Secondly, I want to get the opposite perspective of what we had from Daniel on the 38-second gap. Were you surprised that the leader was that far ahead of everybody?
I wasn't overly surprised. I saw Daniel in some of the practice races, and he was just cruising over here. There's no way to keep up to him, so I kind of expected him to be well out front.
So on the positive side, you take home a podium finish after starting outside of those podium positions. It did look like a number of drivers kind of struggled to keep mistakes away and were their own worst enemies. Were you more focused on yourself today to just kind of keep it on the island?
I was definitely trying to keep myself safe and trying to go for 0x and just trying to keep a decent pace, enough to basically let everybody else bow out, which pretty much proved to happen, except for the number one.
Well, next time we're going to have something of a different track with a much shorter lap as we go to Phillip Island. Do you feel confident in those long, sweeping off-camber corners that kind of riddle that place?
You know, I don't mind the long sweepers. I kind of like technical tracks. Those short tracks often work well for me. I'm not as good on the really long straightaways and the like, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations on a podium. Hopefully we'll see many more from you.
Thank you so much.
That was Sheldon Zaharchuk finishing P2 today. And last but not least, let's talk to Lee Binkley and see what he kind of expected out of this race. Lee, you started in third, you finished in third, but you had a mistake partway through the race. Did you think that the podium was off the cards after that? And then when it came back to you, what were your emotions?
Well, for sure. The Mohanson car had good pace tonight, but I'm under the weather, and I really was having trouble, honestly, focusing and keeping my pace. And I dropped back, and I didn't want to get in anybody's way or cause an issue. And I was shocked to see how I come back up to the podium. But it was a good run, and I appreciate Mohanson coming on board. And thanks to Doug Axson and PCA, everything they do, and Prince Cruise Line for sponsoring it. And is actually a really good time, even though I'm under the weather.
It makes it all the more impressive that you got a third place in this race. I'm sorry that you're feeling a bit out of it. Do you think you'll be better by the time we're back in 2 weeks?
Well, I sure hope so. Probably up to the doctors, but finishing on the podium is a pretty good motivator in itself. So look forward to it.
Well, what do you do with that motivation now? Are you expecting to be able to compete against guys like Harmon and Zaharchuk points-wise?
I certainly will hope so. It's a long season, a lot of races left, and just if I can put in the practice time and get healthy, then I have every expectation to be able to finish up on the podium.
Well, I love that attitude. Again, a well-run race, great rebounds, and I hope I'll get to talk to you more this season.
Thank you.
That was Lee Binkley finishing in P3. All right, I think that's going to wrap up our interviews here for the sport class. A big thank you, of course, goes to PCA for bringing us back for this season of coverage. Let's not forget that the next race, like we mentioned, Phillip Island, will take place on January 28th for this sport class. There you see some of the beautiful views of that really gorgeous facility. But join us, because we got one more here in Mexico tomorrow night, January 15th, with the challenge class. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.